What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, Nintendo announced that they are canceling a big event for 2024, and some of the reasoning behind it is just absolutely ridiculous, and we're gonna go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the day before, as it came out yesterday, and it did not go well on release to the point where people are just outright calling it a scam. And we're also going to be taking a look at Jim Ryan and his retirement party at Sony, as he got an awesome looking PlayStation 5 system that he's probably not going to be using. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with 343 and the future of Halo, as we had an interview with the community director there at 343 Sketch and kind of discussed what's going on internally at 343 and what they're thinking going forward. And we can see this posted up. This is over on Twitter from SSG, who says, Sketch talked about the future of Halo and potential development starting on the next game. Okay, so this maybe caught me off guard a little bit. Not necessarily that they're working on the next game, but it kind of felt like originally Halo Infinite was described as a platform that they would continue to build on for Halo going forward. I mean, that's the reason it's called Halo Infinite. It'll just go on and on and on. But the way it was kind of talked about here on the XCast interview is that there's something after Infinite. Like, okay, we turned Infinite around, which they have. It is much more fun now, definitely better than when it launched, but they're talking about something outside of Infinite. We're probably quite a ways off. I'm thinking like 5 or 6 years, but the fact that we're hearing about that, some of the job listings apparently coincide with it, it at least gives me hope for the future of Halo and them maybe looking at what happened with Infinite and learning from it with the next entry. Also, with Smash Bros. Ultimate now turning 5 years old, which is wild to consider. It's been that long since the game originally released on the Switch. There's an entire anniversary event going on for it. In fact, we can see this posted up. This by Nintendo of America, saying commemorating the anniversary, a special 5-day Spirit event will be held starting on, yesterday, December 7th. Get 5 times the amount of EXP and SP from battles. During the event, 5 extra snack L items. They're going to say starting January 2024, a total of 4 new Smash Bros. Ultimate Spirit events featuring new spirits are planned. There'll also be a tag team tourney to enter alongside Amiibo that you've trained. You know, it is also interesting to mention that technically 2024, because it released staggered across like the world, but the original Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64 came out 25 years prior in 1999. I must wonder if Nintendo has plans to do something to commemorate just the overall anniversary for the series. Maybe drop that N64 version of Smash Bros. On NSO and enable online. That could be pretty cool to see. But otherwise, we at least have some anniversary events coming up for the 5-year for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Oh, and it looks like Square Enix is planning a new game in the Mana series. This was spotted by Gamatsu with some trademarks. This posted up over on their website, where they say Square Enix has filed trademarks for Visions of Mana and Pixelite in Europe and Australia. Both marks were filed on December 7th. Now, Gamatsu even says that they recently heard that a new entry in the Mana series titled Visions of Mana is currently in development, which is very interesting. I mean, we had Trials of Mana, and that was, that's over 3 years ago now. But that actually did pretty well, I feel like. They had a mobile game, so it does kind of feel like maybe they are setting things up, setting the table here for a brand new game in the Mana series, and that would be awesome to see, because sure, Trials of Mana, it was fine, and in fact, I had a good time playing through it, but it was still based on like the older game from decades ago. I'd be curious maybe what they can do with sort of how far we've come with games, and maybe some new ideas to inject into that kind of action JRPG kind of setup. So definitely gotta keep an eye on this one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and them canceling a big event for 2024. This was gonna take place in Tokyo, and it was Nintendo Live. Now, we had Nintendo Live in Seattle, just like a month or two ago, and it went off pretty well. I feel like there was some pretty fun stuff going on there. We saw a lot of footage of different games being played. They had tournaments, and it was just an overall good time for Nintendo fans. But we can see this was issued over on Nintendo's website, where they say notice of postponement of it's a Splatoon 2023 National Finals, and cancellation of Nintendo Live 2024 in Tokyo. Now, the Splatoon National Finals, which was scheduled to be held at the Taku General Gymnasium in Tokyo on Saturday, December 16th, and Sunday, December 17th, will be held today. Due to the following reasons, we would like to inform you that we have decided to postpone the event. This is Google Translate doing its best right now, but we'll see what the reasoning would be here. Our company has been persistently receiving threats targeting our employees, and recently the targets of these threats have spread to spectators, staff, etc. of the Splatoon National Finals. Considering safety as our top priority, we have made the decision to postpone the event. And then just the event cancellation for Nintendo Live 2024 in Tokyo. What? It's a very strange situation here that's unfolded. So they've postponed Splatoon with the finals, the tournament they were running there, and then just canceled Nintendo Live because people are threatening not only just, I guess, employees at Nintendo, but also staff who would have been running the tournament, spectators for Splatoon? I mean, I know the Splatfest would get heated and stuff. I see it online, people arguing back and forth. This is like next level stuff. It's very, very strange to see this. And it must have been serious enough to where they're willing to just cancel something like Nintendo Live that was attached to the Splatoon tournaments. And it must have been either a ton of threats or some very, very significant ones that maybe they saw as being much more legitimate than like the standard stuff that might just get posted up online on a message board, something like that. So yeah, very, very odd stuff to see. And it's unfortunate for people who are looking forward to the event, Nintendo Live in Tokyo for 2024, as, I mean, really it would have taken just a couple of people to ruin it completely for everyone. And I looked around a bit to see if there was anything I missed that happened in the Splatoon community or some kind of controversy, something going back and forth, but couldn't really find anything. So let me know if you're in like the Splatoon community, been following maybe the finals or the tournament that's going on here, if something was happening and it's like, okay, well, that's probably what led to the threats. Very, very odd stuff to see unfold here. But yeah, unfortunate definitely for people who are looking forward to Nintendo Live 2024 in Tokyo, as at least as of now, it has been completely canceled due to threats for employees, staff, and spectators. Next up, let's talk about Jim Ryan. As we know, in 2024, he will be retiring and leaving Sony. So he's got like 3 or 4 months left at the company, and he's been doing a few things, whether it's setting up deals for NC Soft or other publishing and things kind of behind the scenes for logistics and just running PlayStation. But it does appear that they decided to have his retirement party, and in fact, one person on Twitter was there and took some pictures, which we can see this posted up. This is from, actually Install Base, or I guess Yuchi, saying, "Sad I won't be around for the Game Awards, but I couldn't pass up the chance to go to Jim Ryan's thank you party, and we'll be around some legends and this one-of-a-kind Jim Ryan PS5 with PS1 style." So you can see the gentleman here taking pictures with different people at Sony, and then also just taking a picture of Jim Ryan holding up the big card saying thank you, Jim, and just having an overall fun time there, right? A party for his going away party. And he even got a cookie. Like they put Jim on a cookie here just saying thank you, Jim, which there was a lot of discussion around, was Jim Ryan fired? I don't think they put a guy's face on a cookie if they're firing him. So this is, as it's been described, guys, I'm telling you, he's just retiring. He's been there a while. He's been there so long, in fact. He helped launch the PlayStation. I mean, he was there with the original PlayStation, and what they decided to do was set up this customized PlayStation 5 that I think looks awesome. Look at this thing. It has obviously the theming of that original PlayStation with kind of the colors there, the glossy kind of lightish gray in the middle. But I really like the USB cable they've set up here, where it has kind of the end plug that looks like it's going into a PS1, and then also the controller. I need Sony to sell this controller, this theming. It looks awesome. I did see some place, I think Colorware does this already, but I would love to see a DualSense controller officially released from Sony, maybe for like an anniversary coming up for the original PlayStation. And I know the joke is that Jim Ryan isn't really a gamer, doesn't really play a lot of this stuff, and we have seen him hold the controller, and I tend to believe it. And I mean, look, this is a PS5 that he probably wouldn't play. Even if he was a big gamer, this is something you kind of take away with you as like a company memento, right? It's like, okay, I was there for decades and I have this PS5 that was like a parting gift. I'm going to put it up somewhere and just kind of have it as like the souvenir, just kind of representing my time within Sony, working to launch multiple consoles, really turning around the PS3, and then we'll help launch the PS4 in Europe, and then taking over and getting the PlayStation 5 launched during like the pandemic and everything that was happening there with the supply lines behind the scenes. It was pretty difficult, and it seems like, at least to start the generation, did a pretty good job navigating those waters. Now, what happens with the live service stuff that he has worked to set up on the way out? Hard to say right now because Bungie isn't exactly working out like they were hoping with that acquisition, but hey, in 4 or 5 months, won't be Jim's problem. He'll be out of there with his really cool looking PS1 themed PS5. Come on, Sony. You gotta sell one of these things as like a limited edition thing for an anniversary coming up. Come on. Next up, let's talk about The Day Before, which is a game that people have been trying to figure out if it's even real to begin with, as some of the marketing around it has sort of positioned it like this Last of Us DayZ or Days or Division kind of game all merged into one. And when people would look at the trailer, they saw some things that were very, very similar, almost too similar to some of those games, to where people were wondering if it was like plagiarized. Is this just kind of a setup to get you on board for early access and get your money? And is it a scam? These are all things that were going on leading up to its release. Well, yesterday, it did release into early access. It went up for sale technically at $40. I bought it because I said, you know what, let's see what we're dealing with here. And I have yet to play it. Why? Because when I did pick it up, I immediately went through, made a very basic character. The character creation, customization, very, very rudimentary, not a lot of options, but all right, fine, go through that. And then I met with a bunch of servers that are just completely full, and the ones that say hi instead of full wouldn't let you in anyway. I also tried to change the resolution, and that was not cooperating at all. It would just mess the entire image up, so I had to leave it at 1280 by 720. That didn't actually look like 1280 at 720 on my 1440p widescreen monitor. Anyway, after this, I decided to just get a refund because I started to see people posting up video and footage of it, and it was not at all as robust as was being described. It looked like a pretty basic, bare bones attempt at a Division or an MMO version of Last of Us with not a lot going on. And in fact, it's not just me who's thinking that, because over on Steam, it's currently sitting at overwhelmingly negative with over 6,500 reviews, and it is basically, yeah, I can't play it, or when I can play it, yeah, it's pretty bad. Like that, just outright. So I started to also look around, and this was noticed, I saw this by Nick, who's the co-founder at Second Wind. Says, Fantastic completely scrubbing their channel to hide any evidence of the fake The Day Before game they marketed. Left this today, right as from earlier this year. Have zero problem describing this as a full-blown scam now, and that seems to be the thought going around the internet right now, is the setup, and then I guess just try and get people to buy in, and maybe even promising more updates down the road. But I did take a look at their YouTube channel, and yeah, they have been deleting a lot of stuff that they showcased The Day Before with. They have like their final trailer, sure, but anything that they were really showcasing prior, different features or parts of the world, that's all kind of gone. So, I mean, don't buy The Day Before. That seems obvious at this point, but it does kind of feel like it was a vaporware up until a few months ago when they're like, oh, we kind of do have to make a game, don't we? Remember before they like delayed the release last minute, they discussed the idea of Trademarks holding up some of their progress, and then they've even said it's been 5 years in the making. Has it? Because it doesn't really look like 5 years of development went into this. So yeah, avoid The Day Before. It's not at all what things look like before this with their different trailers and gameplay demonstrations. It's just seemingly at this point a waste of $40. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe they come out pull it from Steam, do an apology or something, and say that they'll be back in a year or two when they'll, I'm sure, fight more trademark issues. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. This will actually give us a look at first week sales for Dragon Quest Monsters, and we can see this over on Install Base Forum with the top 10. And yeah, Dragon Quest Monsters, the Dark Prince, right at the top there, 346,583 copies. Very, very impressive stuff. In fact, it looked like Square had said, hey, we sold out physically, so you're gonna have to pick this one up digitally for now as they look to restock heading into the holidays in that second half of December. Then we have Momotaro there at 2, hanging there actually pretty strong with 64,946 copies, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder right behind it with the 61,794. Then we drop down to Super Mario RPG that is currently cruising towards that 400,000 mark in just Japan, so impressive stuff there. Pikmin 4, then WarioWare Move It, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Minecraft, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Moving over to hardware, the Switch is at the top, 79,000 systems. That is up from last week. However, it is roughly half of what they were selling this time last year. And in fact, year to date, looks like it's about 600,000 short. So I think that number will continue to grow as we go through the rest of December, which makes sense for the Switch. Eventually, it's going to run out of people to sell it to. I still think the system will cross over that 33 million mark and will inevitably outsell the DS, but it's probably going to start slowing down as we get into 2024, since we're kind of anticipating Nintendo to start talking about their next system. The PS5 there, 43,946. The Xbox Series, 2,190. The PS4 at 853. And then, 15 more 3DSs were found in the back. But definitely impressive stuff there for Dragon Quest Monsters. I've been able to play 2 or 3 hours of it so far, and it is technically Dragon Quest's version of Pokemon, but it's a little different in the sense that, for example, the battle system is more or less set up like you have tactics set for each monster that you've basically gathered up, and you just hit fight and they sort of just kind of do things on their own there, which does streamline battles a bit, I'd say, but I still need to put a lot more time in because eventually you get to the point where you're like fusing monsters and doing all kinds of customization there. But for the most part, it's Dragon Quest Monsters. If you enjoyed it on the DS, you're probably going to get a kick out of it here on the Switch as well. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, which is the final day of Game of the Year madness for the current round. And we can see, yeah, Resident Evil 4 absolutely ran over Blasphemous 2. However, Blasphemous 2 held up better than I was kind of thinking. I mean, it's 85% to 15%. I mean, sure, a big margin, but it's Resident Evil 4. I mean, it's kind of what you'd expect from it. So, hey, shout out to Blasphemous 2. Some of these games that people did not know about have been able to at least become more aware of. Blasphemous 2 kind of being another one. And now that we've really, again, cut the field in half, we're going to get some pretty serious matchups. Things like Armored Core 6 and Hogwarts Legacy came down to like a 2% margin. I'm kind of expecting to see a lot more of that, though. And what we're going to do is have a live stream on Sunday to go over all the different matchups going into next week when we kick that round off. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Zane, who says, Bungie upper management is the poison and has been the poison. Apparently, when asked if management would consider taking a pay cut to preserve jobs, they stated they weren't that type of company. I mean, there's been a lot of talk going around about what's happening within Bungie and their upper management and what their strategy was. And really, it's as simple as Sony said, you got to get to this mark. And they said, okay, well, we're going to start cutting jobs. And that was kind of it. And to me, it does all come down to that expansion that's releasing, in June, the final Shape expansion. And if that's able to move the needle a bit and maybe get them back on track with their revenue goals. If not, and Destiny 2 continues to fall, Sony's rolling in, they're taking over. And that's and then it makes me wonder, well, what does Sony do at that point? They're not the ones who are experts at live service games. They brought in Bungie because they're experts, or they're supposed to be experts in live service games, but apparently they're having a hard enough time just keeping above water with their business and Bungie as a whole. So it's going to be weird, I will say that, if we get to that position. And based on what I'm seeing with Destiny 2 now, Final Shape would have to create an incredible amount of hype online for them to avoid the Sony takeover. So I'm leaning more towards by the end of this year, Sony will have dissolved the board and put their own people in place to run Bungie, and then, well, we'll see what happens. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's Nintendo canceling Nintendo Live in Tokyo for next year due to threats for staff and spectators? It sounds ridiculous, but let me know your thoughts on that one. And then also, what about the day before? I mean, people have been calling it a scam leading all the way up to release, and here we are with it, well, people still calling it a scam after it came out. Let me know if you picked this one up and if you're able to actually play the game. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.